Hey guys, let's talk about books. But before I do that, I need to update the February calendar and add in few more book covers. I decorated this spread in my last month's reading wrap-up, and even when this is quite bold, more out there compared to my usual pages, it grows on me every time I look at this spread. I just love this combination of pink and dark green, and I'm using pinks and greens in the calendar as well to mark which days I was reading my books, and on the side I am adding 3 more book covers. I have not finished all of these books by the end of February, but I have at least started them and I will talk about them next month. Now, instead of flipping to the next page, let's go one page back because there is one blank page here left. I do not want to skip pages in my reading journal because there is a great chance of not having enough pages by the end of the year, and I have read most of The Devils in January anyway. I was not really sure how I would feel about this book, if I would enjoy it or not. I have heard and read both positive and negative reviews, and I was interested to see where I land. I landed poorly, guys. The Devils is the newest book by Joe Abercrombie. The beginning was promising. There is this group of misfits. We have a priest, mercenary, a pompous magician, thief who might be a part of royal family. There is also a werewolf who wants to either kill or get it on with everyone, or both. There is a vampire and an elf. There is basically everything. But sadly, they all have that one characteristic that gets repeated over and over and over, and that's the extent of what we get to know about most of these characters. They all are summoned to go on a mission together, and they travel and they get into a fight and travel and fight and travel and travel. I so wanted to like this book, but honestly, I was just so uninterested in what's going to happen next because guess what? This one might be a spoiler, so skip 10 seconds or so here. One of the characters cannot even die. Guess how thrilling those battles were? They were not. I know Abercrombie can write characters amazingly. I have read 6 of his books last year, but this was just not it. Everything was just so over the top, and I guess that he was going for that vibe, but to me it was too much. The dialogue was quite repetitive and the constant cheap jokes were quite annoying by the time we got to the end of the book. I am usually not the biggest fan of his humor, but I could appreciate the wit behind it in the previous books. But this almost 600 pages long book was reduced to abundance of juvenile jokes, and there was so much sarcasm. It's like the author had tried to be funny and sarcastic in every single line, in every single dialogue, in every single thought. But too much of the same thing reduces enjoyment and the story then feels flat. I loved his first law books because yes, he is sarcastic and jokes around a lot, but those jokes are delivered by the perfect character at the right time. In The Devils, it is constant, so the impact is lost. There are some good parts, of course, but for me, the constant repetition and dumb humor just outweighs everything good. This book is set in alternative Europe. We got Rome, Troy, and Venice in here, and I was like, what? He got clearly inspired by real people. Cardinal Žižka was, I presume, this is not confirmed, I just think, she was inspired by Jan Žižka, who was Czech military commander and a knight in the second half of the 14th and at the beginning of the 15th century. His battle tactics were innovative at his time, and to this day they are studied worldwide. This name being spoken in a fantasy story was slightly off-putting to me, but mine is an opinion of just one person, and clearly many people seem to have enjoyed this book. So if you feel like the premise is interesting, go for it. I know people who did enjoy this one, and I don't want to discourage you from reading, but I also think it is important to share opinions, both good and bad. I would say you might like this book if you like fun, action-packed, over-the-top story, or Deadpool maybe. I loved Deadpool though. Anyway, I used lots and lots of brown stationery here, my favorite map washi tape of course, and some washi tapes from Dark Academia set by Notebook Therapy. That green and gold paper I put on sides is gorgeous. I should definitely use it more often. There were times when I felt like this page was done, yet I kept adding more and more stationery, and you know what? I am happy I did because I love how this page turned out. Next, I am going to talk about Blood on Her Tongue. This is a gothic horror novel about twin sisters. One of them, Sarah, is suddenly unwell. She refuses to eat or basically do anything and is obsessed with an old corpse discovered on her husband's estate. She is diagnosed with insanity, of course, and there's a chance she ends up in asylum. To spare Sarah this fate, her sister Lucy is trying to figure out the mystery, while Sarah is quickly getting worse. The atmosphere of this book is so dark, eerie, unsettling, and beautiful. I can imagine this being perfect read for October or November when it is colder and all colors of nature are muted. There is fog all the time and this silence hanging in the air. First half of the book was so enjoyable and atmospheric that I did not care. I did not know basically anything about our two sisters, but the later half, after some revelations that were not that new or interesting, except the part about how the sister got ill, that was, I would say, a new take, at least for me, on that topic. I am trying so hard not to say any spoilers, but by the end there was so much that did not make sense to me, especially the behavior of Lucy, the sister who was trying to save Sarah. Also, Sarah just sitting there in bed for the most of the story, not even trying to help herself, was so infuriating to me. I sadly feel lukewarm towards this novel, even when I hoped I would love this, and to be honest, it is, for me, one of those forgettable stories, because when I sat down to write reviews for books I read in February, I completely blanked out on this one. I did not even remember I read it. The cover is so stunning though. Regardless, I still wish to explore this author's other novels. If you are looking for atmospheric horror, it might not be the best choice, but yes, there are innumerable graphic scenes. However, if you approach this as maybe romantic mystery with gothic vibes, I believe you would have a great time. For some reason, I have chosen to put lots of brown and dark red stationery on this page, even when the book cover is mostly black. But I would say it works if you look closely at the book cover, because there are some plants in there, but not so much from afar. I really like that I used those red flowers in here. That looks at least somehow similar to the cover page. And in the end, I have chosen this simple black grit washi tape to put on top and bottom, just to have something black on the page. I also put the title with gold letters at the bottom of this page, and I think it looks good with the background paper I have chosen for this page. I was trying to make this decoration flow to the next page, and I was not really sure how to approach that. The cover for the 2 clutch eraser is mostly dark grey and red, which is an unusual combination for me to work with, but I happily accepted the challenge and I had a great time with this page. And I have used so much stationery I would probably never use together. By the end, I felt like the page was maybe too gray and gloomy, so I added some cream colored stickers in here as well, and I really like how they lifted this page a bit. To Clutch a Razor by Veronica Roth is a sequel to When Among Crows I read last year, and I had a great time with this book. This series is full of monsters or creatures from Slavic folklore, which as someone from Europe I loved to see. The main plot is the centuries-old fight between the good ones and the bad ones, between the knights and monsters, but who are the good ones and who are the bad ones here? We get to know more about the lore, about how the knight swords are made, not how you think they are. There is a funeral, there is heist, family expectations, and forbidden queer love. Not forbidden because it is queer. Part of the story is happening in Poland, and I loved that. I loved reading about all the funeral preparations and rules. It was so interesting, even when Poland is right next door. The author, of course, took some liberties with it, since this is a fantastical story with dangerous creatures roaming the streets, but it was lovely being so close to home in a book. In fact, right from the moment I opened this book, I was immersed in the story and I felt a pang of nostalgia being back in this world with these characters. The world I know, but at the same time the world that is transformed by the imagination of the author. There is a lot of monsters versus knight talk and just a tiny bit of romance, which is exactly how I like my books. So don't go into this expecting some big love story and many romantic scenes, but you know, there are feels. But I have to say there was one particular scene between our two main characters in book 1 that made me giggle like a schoolgirl, and it was sadly not overshadowed by anything else in this book. It is pretty short, it's a bit over 200 pages, and I would love if it was a bit longer, so we could get even more into the details of some things, and that is true for the first book in the series as well. That one was even shorter and would definitely benefit from some additional pages. But I would rather read a story that's maybe a bit short than something too long, overwritten and boring. I certainly hope there will be more books in this series in the future. Next, I finished Dark Wild Shore by Charlotte McConaghy, and it is a story about a woman being washed ashore on a remote island in Antarctica where a family of 3 kids and their father is taking care of the world's largest seed bank. And even from the beginning, you know that this place was once full of researchers, and it is not anymore. This was such an amazing book for the first third, maybe. I honestly thought this would be another 5-star book for me. I rarely give a 5-star rating, so understandably, I was extremely excited about this book being so good, but then came the massive disappointment when the mood shifted and suddenly this story felt all over the place. Suddenly, I had no idea what I was reading. Was this supposed to be a mystery, a thriller, romance, story about surviving, about a single father who is doing an absolutely terrible job at raising his children? Was this ghost story? Was this murder mystery? National Geographic documentary? I have no idea. And more questionable choices of these characters made this almost a DNF by the end. The whole book was filled with miscommunication, and that is one of my least favorite tropes. I also did not think the romance plot would be so prevalent here, especially because when deciding if I should read this book, I looked at the genre tags on Goodreads that are right under the synopsis, and romance was not mentioned there at all. And honestly, I could not care about the romance aspect of this story less. These two people were very paranoid about each other, of course, because they were not talking to each other about what they should be talking about. But yeah, when you think a person might kill you, you of course develop feelings for them, right? Why? It was not even important. You could totally skip those parts, make them friends at most, and nothing would have changed. We might have gotten different ending then, but to be honest, I would prefer basically anything else than what we got. Also, Dad is called Dominic. What a great name, but the author for some reason decided everyone should call him Dom. Yes, Dom. And once again, I was not sure what type of story I'm reading, and I could not keep a straight face when he was mentioned. Sorry. Okay, enough talking about what everything I disliked. I should also point out some good parts. The first half of this book had amazing, dark, eerie, and mysterious atmosphere. Being stuck on a cold and windy island that will sink soon, with penguins roaming around and whales visiting occasionally, what a vibe. Then the family. Everyone was dealing with their own problems, and we got to very slowly know about them all and about why are they doing and acting the way they are. I enjoyed that immensely. Also, thank you to the author for representing women who do not want children and showing how misunderstood they are, and also for showing how difficult it is to be a single parent. Topic of the climate change was also explored here a lot, but maybe a bit clumsily. There were sections recited to us by a 9-year-old. 9. That felt so weird. Maybe also because narrator for this character was far away from 9-year-old, but the narrators for the other characters were okay. I enjoyed their sections, but with that one, I had to keep reminding myself it was a kid. And there was a different narrator for every single character, which is rarely seen, but I really appreciated that. There were also quite a few sections with whales and penguins, and they were so good. Probably my favorite parts of this story. To sum this up, this book was, for me, a very big disappointment after extremely well done beginning. Instead of getting mystery on an isolated island, discussions about grief and climate change, I got some weird romance and all the miscommunication. On the last page, there will be reviews for 2 books, and I am dividing this page vertically this time, which I rarely do, and I would certainly like to explore more. First, let's talk about A Court of Wings and Ruin. Yeah, I finally continued the Akotar series, and this was maybe book I enjoyed the most out of this series so far. But I have realized one thing. I don't like Sarah J. Maas's writing. I just don't. I understand the appeal of fantastical fairyland, but if there was not an occasional wingspan comparison, I would not even know these characters are supposed to be fairies. They act a lot like people, and I had to keep reminding myself it is a fairy world. Also, Farah is so irritating. I'm so sorry, but I can't stand her. And I can't believe these hundreds and hundreds years old people are incapable of finding solutions until the 17 or something years old self-important girl comes in and figures it all out. Plus, she's considering herself a painter, and for some reason, I just can't stand those chapters. There is something that irks me about the way her painting sessions are written. I have no idea why that is, but it is. I enjoyed seeing some of these characters once again, and I loved the dynamic between Nesta and Cassian. I enjoyed their interactions a lot, but I simply did not care at all about anything, really. I have to say there was one single scene that surprised me and I really like to see, but then that person got killed, and yeah, I was so done with that story. Also, fun fact, the word mate is used 196 times in this book, almost 200 times. And yes, I was so annoyed that I counted, and I might have skipped few. I hated the word made so much. So yeah, I gave this book exceptionally high rating for how many problems I have with it, and no, I am not getting into all of those because we would be here forever. And I was already quite critical in this video, but you know what? Those stars are all for Nesta and Cassian and maybe Lucien, even when he was not really a lot in this book. And that's it. I know many people are enjoying this series, and I don't mean to disrespect anyone enjoying these books more than I do. Reading and everything really is very subjective, and that's what is so amazing about it. I might have some problems with your favorite books, and my favorites might be a trash to you. And you know what? I don't really care. Life is just too short for that. I gave this series a fair shot. 3 books are quite enough, I think, but I probably have had enough. Lastly, we have Dead Poets Society, and I was so excited to read this book since I watched the movie many years ago, and I have hoped we would get something more. This book is basically a rewritten movie, and I have learned after I finished this book that it was written after the movie. So I am kind of asking why? Why write this book when there is nothing more to it than edit as a scene? I am never going to reread this book, but I am going to watch the movie again for sure. It was just so much better. Now that all the book reviews are done, let's flip to the beginning of this journal and let's fill out all the yearly trackers I have set up in this journal. The first one is, of course, my reading goal, and because I have finished 6 books in February, I am going to color in 6 boxes. So my total for the first 2 months of this year is 11 books, which I think it's very nice, considering I rarely have time to do anything, really. So this is 9, 10 and 11. And I can't forget to color in this small square as well. And I'm using Tombow water-based marker number 673 if anyone is interested. Next, I'm going to put in all the book covers for all books I read in February. And as you can see, I have already filled out all the star ratings. And now I'm just going to add all the books in here. And all of these are going to be put in order I have finished them during the year. Just to make it maybe interesting, I really like when there are so many different colors throughout the whole spread. I did that last year as well, and I really loved how that looked, so I'm doing this again. Okay, and the last one. Okay, perfect. Next, there are my reading statistics. I have already filled all those in, so I have read 6 books, and if I count all the audiobooks and physical books and digital books together, I have read 2018 pages, which is 72 pages per day and little over 300 pages per book. While I read some longer ones, most of the books I was reading were slightly shorter. And as you can see, I have rated every single book differently, and my average rating is 3.33, which is not the best, but it is what it is. Okay, next there are different trackers where I color in all the boxes based on the legends I have down here. After I filled all of these in for my January reads, I have realized I don't really like the colors I have chosen for these trackers, so I have just sat down and reworked all of this. In the genre tracker, I have covered just a few of the colored in boxes in here, and looking at this and this legend, you can already see the difference. I was really not a fan of all these yellows and this light green and maybe even this very vivid pink. So I made everything more muted, and one thing I need to do now is to also redo all of these boxes. So for the genre tracker, the first box stays the same because I have not changed colors of these, but I have the other boxes in here and I'm just going to simply cover that up. This time I'm going to use this stick glue because the wet one I have used on previous page, it is maybe a bit too wet and it takes some time before the things stick to the page. So I hope this glue will be enough. Okay, you can slightly see that I have pasted something in here, but I think that's still looking quite okay. I have done nothing for the books by length yet, and I'm going to show you. This is the old legend and this is the new one. I like it so much more. For some of you this might be maybe unnecessary change, but for me this looks so much better. So that's why I'm doing this, and I was not sure if I would be changing all of these colors, but just before I pressed play on my camera, I decided that yes, I'm going to do that. So I quickly made these. Okay, perfect. And now for the boxes. Yeah, I like this so much more than the yellow that was in there. And with this done, we can now color in boxes for my February reads. All the markers I might need are here. I will have them here on the side, so it is easier for me to work on these boxes. And let's start. The first book was fantasy. That was The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. That color stayed the same because I really like this purple. Also, it was 560 pages long, so I am going to try and color both of these pages simultaneously. Next there was horror. That was Blood on Her Tongue, and that one was 353 pages. And the next book I finished was also between 300 and 400 pages, and that one was Wild Dark Shore, and I'm going to color it in as a thriller. Then I finished Two Clutch Eraser. Okay, I picked wrong marker, and that was, I'd say, fantasy from two parts, and one part was romance. I will do a smaller part red and the bigger part will be purple. And that was very small book, only 240 pages. Dead Poet Society, that is considered modern classic, so I'm going to color in a classic. And that was also quite short. That was 166 pages. That's this very pale pink color. Okay, and the last book was Court of Wings and Ruin, and that was from the most part romance. So this time I am coloring in 2 squares with the red color and 1 square with purple for fantasy. That one was slightly over 700 pages, so I'm going to use this dark green. And I have set this legend in a way that the more pages a book has, these squares are darker. So just by a glance, I will be able to see how many of the bigger or longer books I was reading. Okay, next we have 2 more trackers. First, I'm going to redo these sections. I like this so much more. Okay, so let's add that in. Maybe I could lift this sticker. Yeah. Now this gets switched up. Okay, perfect. And now this is the new one, this is the old one. As I said, I just did not like these yellows in there. And okay, perfect. for year published, first books I finished were all published in 2025, which I for some reason find really funny and interesting. I don't really read that many recently published books, so this is really fun to see. And you can see that in January I have read 2 more. So there were quite a few recent reads. And then we had a book from 1989, and that will be orange color. And the last one was published in 2017, and that's purple. I really like seeing purple in here. Yeah, and it seems I'm reading books from the same years. I don't think I would have noticed if I was not having this tracker in here. Now for rating, as I have said, I have 6 different ratings in here, so let's start. The first one was 2 stars. That's this really interesting pink color. Then we had 3-star book, that's purple. Oh, there will be so many colors in here. Then we had 2.5, and that's pink. Then I had a 5-star read. That's the second 5-star read of the year. That's so nice. And for that I'm using this very dark purple color. It looks so much darker on the page, but I kind of like it. The 5-star books need to stand out, right? Then we had 3.5. That's the blue one. And a 4-star. That's this funky green color. Okay, I love how I added much more color to this page. Not so much to this one, but that's totally fine. Okay, next we have classics and non-fiction. I have read no non-fiction this year so far, but I'm going to add Dead Poets Society to classics. Now for series tracker, I have continued Court of Thorns and Roses, so I'm coloring this square. Okay, let's not forget this in here. And then I continued the Curse Bearer series. I am not sure if there will be more books in this series, so I will leave it as it is, and at the end of the year, if there are more books announced, I will add a square in here or something. I don't know yet. But for now, I am so happy that I could add at least some color in here. And of course, I have read Devils, that's start of another series, but I am not going to continue that. So I am not writing it down here. Next we have Read My Shelf, and I have finally read a book I own physically, and that's Dead Poets Society, and that's in here. Oh, I am so bummed that it is here on the side. I would love to see it being somewhere here, somewhere in the middle. So maybe I should just pick a book from here so my wish would get fulfilled. Still, I am very happy there is a book added in here. This is for now the full list of physical books that are on my bookshelf and I have not read yet. It is not that much. It just looks like a lot seeing it like this, but I really wanted to be able to add book covers for books I read. That's why I chose this format, and it makes me excited every time I can add a book in here. Okay, now for my audiobook purchases. I have all my Libro FM purchases in here and all my Audible purchases in here. I am trying to get more and more books from Libro FM. Hopefully by the end of the year this will be filled in. We'll see. Okay, so I have read Wild Dark Shore, and Blood on Her Tongue was also from Libro FM. Okay, and from Audible I have read Devils and A Court of Wings and Ruin. I chose this book only because it was on sale. I got it for like €5 or something, so I am glad I continued this series, but also it was not really my goal. That's done. Okay, now I have bought nothing, unhauled nothing, and for the Hall of Fame, we of course have to add a 5-star read I had, so that's 2 clutch eraser. Okay, nothing in here. For quotes, I did not really pay attention to quotes I would like to add in here for all of these books, but I might go through Goodreads later and see if there is something I like. I have written everything in here already, and if you have not watched my last reading wrap-up, or maybe you don't remember what I said, that's totally fine. I absolutely did not expect you to remember what I have said. But basically, in here, I write 1 sentence about every book, as the title suggests, and I format it like the episode chapters of Friends, so the 1 or something like that. I have written the 1 with sarcasm, because yeah, that was a big part of Devils. Then we have the 1 with a bog buddy, the 1 with penguins, the 1 with Baba Yaga, the 1 with poets, and the 1 with the wingspan, of course. Okay, and for places I have visited, I have written down Prythian, of course, for A Court of Wings and Ruin, then Welton Academy in Vermont for the Dead Poet Society, and I have Netherlands for Blood on Her Tongue, and Shearwater Island in Antarctica for Wild Dark Shore. Okay, next. I am so excited about this spread because there are 3 books I can add in here, which is so amazing. Considering I have not read anything from this list last month, and in 2025 I think I finished 10 books out of 25. So February was definitely a month of progress for this list. Okay, Blood on Her Tongue and a cover. Yeah, I can't wait to see how many books I will have read from this list by the end of the year. Okay, next is Read the Rainbow, and you can probably tell that we are going to fill in quite a few of these colors. So I'm going to start with obvious ones, Dead Poet Society for yellow. Okay, now Court of Wings and Ruin for pink, Blood on Her Tongue for black. I also have Wild Dark Shore for brown and 2 clutch eraser for gray. Oh, this is so fun. I am having so much fun just gluing book covers into my journal. I just love doing that. Okay, so we have 7 books already in here out of 20. That's pretty good progress, but as always it gets more and more difficult as the year goes by. Next we have A to Z challenge, and again we have quite a few book covers to add in here. I have Blood on Her Tongue for B, Court of Wings and Ruin for C. I love how it matches with this cauldron and it is so on the theme, and this was not even planned. That's really fun. Okay, Dead Poet Society for D, Wild Dark Shore for W, and I'm going to add 2 clutch eraser for T. I have still not printed the book cover for My Best Friend's Exorcisms. I guess I will have to remember next month. Okay, and bingo. Oh, I am so excited for this. This bingo might be slightly different from what you are used to seeing, and that's because I have all the bingo positions behind these black washi tapes, and based on which prompt I fulfill, I will uncover this section and we'll see where on the bingo it will place. I'm going to add Wild Dark Shore for immersive atmosphere because it was really atmospheric. I really felt like I was on that island with all of them. I'm going to use this prompt, and I have not done that last month, but I decided to color in all of these prompts with the same marker, I'm coloring in everything for that month, just to make it easy to see which prompts are already fulfilled. Because before that, it was not really that visible. Okay, let's see the bingo position. And we have B1, and that's in here. Next, I'm going to add, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to color in the prompt, and that is for the devils. I'm so sorry, but yeah, kind of sums it up for me. And that's G3. Okay, so G3. Okay, perfect. Lastly, I am going to color in Underhyped. And that's for Two Clutch Eraser, because yeah, not many people are talking about it, and I really like this series, so that's why I'm going with Underhyped. And that's G1. Okay, so we made some progress towards a few bingos, and that's, I guess, it for my February reads. Okay, so this was the bingo. Now, reading in pixels, as you can see, I have everything already filled in. On this side, I am coloring in a box for every day of the month when I was listening to audiobooks, and in here you can see I again have a legend saying how many minutes I was listening and how many pages I was reading. So this side is for physical and digital books. Yes, there are yellows and all the colors I was not really liking on the previous pages, but in here I don't really mind that, and also I am not really keen on redoing all of these. But yeah, in here I think it's completely fine. I like how this looks. Maybe that's because the washi tape I have used in here, since there is some yellow and cream and colors like that. As you can see, I am listening to audiobooks almost every single day, but I am not reading with my eyes every single day, and that's okay. I just don't always have time to sit down and read physically. But there was one day when I have read more than 100 pages with my eyes, and that's a day we had some kind of reading retreat at one of my friend's house. We just met, we ate, and we read books. And that's it. And it was really, really fun. Okay, and I think this is the last page or second to last page. I have read no arcs in February, and I don't think I have read any of your recommendations either. So yeah, that's everything for all of my yearly trackers. And now let's flip through February pages again. This is the cover page. I love how bold it is. At the time of working on this spread, I was not really sure if I would like it a few weeks later, but I still really like how it looks. For the book reviews, this is the page for Devils. This is probably my favorite page I have made this month. Even when it was for a book I did not really enjoy, I just placed so much stuff in here, and I think it kind of works. I especially like this tape I put in here. Now for the other book reviews. This month I went slightly out of my comfort zone, and I have used quite a lot of stuff in here. I had so much fun, and I think I have used all of this stuff maybe because just a few days ago I have went through all of my stickers and all of my washi and PET tapes, and I have made a beautiful washi tape wall right in front of me. You can't see that, but there will be a video about that in a couple of weeks on my channel, and there were quite a few tapes I completely forgot about. It was really fun to see everything I have again, and it was even more fun to use it in my journal. That's why these pages are maybe slightly different. Also, using gray and red together, it was a challenge, and I have put here so much stuff. I had so much fun doing this page. For the Wild Dark Shore, I was kind of losing momentum because I have set up all of these pages basically one after another. and I was not really sure what decoration to use in here, especially because there is a C on the cover, and I would love to use C washi tape or PET tape in here, but everything I have, and probably everything or most ocean or water tapes, are blue, and that was not really working with this cover page. So I went with this gold one that kind of looks like waves. Also we have Marigona Sully sticker in here. I am not crazy about this page, but I think with what I had on hand, it is looking nice. And this page, this was experiment, I would say. I just wanted to see how splitting page into two halves would look, and if I could make it look interesting and fun, and I think it worked. And maybe it worked because these covers are very vivid, very colorful, so I could use colorful flower stickers in here. I will probably be doing this type of page more often in the future. And yeah, that's it for my February reading wrap up. I would love to do my March cover page in this video, but to be honest, I don't really know what theme to do. I am kind of on the verge of two themes. The first one is very green, very spring-like, and the second one is more muted. It's something to do with academia, and I am liking both of these probably the same, so I'm still thinking about what to do. And there is some beautiful spring themed washi tape coming to me from the washi tape shop, so I might use those. You will see them in the next video as well. So hopefully we will meet next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have absolutely a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.